And welcome into another episode of the Young Dad Podcast. Whether you're outside grilling, maybe you're mowing the lawn, or maybe you're changing dirty diapers, or maybe you're chasing those little rascals around, or maybe in the slight off chance you finally got a moment to sit down, relax, and listen to your favorite podcast. Whatever you're doing, wherever you're at, thanks for being here. I'm really glad you're here. Today's guest is a man of many titles, but one purpose, Mista Yu. He's a minister, mentor, speaker, best-selling author, host of the They Call Me Mista Yu show. He survived near-death experiences, navigated the complexities of blended families, and now dedicates his life to helping others discover their accountability, their value, and their purpose. He's not just talking about living a life of meaning. He's doing it every single day. From fatherhood to faith, from leadership to legacy, this episode is packed, or is going to be packed, with powerful insights for any dad navigating life twists and turns. So with that, make sure you grab your juice box, grab a snack, and let's jump in and welcome Mr. Yu to the show. Mr. Yu, welcome.
Thank you for having me on, Jay. I appreciate it, man. This is going to be fun. I can tell already.
Absolutely, absolutely. I try to make it fun. The more
That guy,
fun, the
that guy,
better.
that guy you were talking about sounds.
Right, right. And you look like you don't got much going on.
Yeah, man.
So
It's going to be a fun ride.
absolutely. So kind of take us through your story a little bit. How you got from wherever you were from the beginning, how you got into ministry, speaking, writing books, and all the stuff you're currently doing now. What was the path and those moments that led you to where you are today?
I wish I can give you just one path, but that's not how it went down.
Yeah, perfect.
It was a lot of ups and downs. I guess we can compare it to a roller coaster because it was kind of like that. I come from a religious household. My mother and grandmother are from the U.S. Virgin Islands and Panama, respectively. So they came from a Episcopalian background. So if you ever been to an Episcopal church or listened to the music, you kind of know what the church service is probably like. It's pretty low key. Everything is just kind of it's super downplayed. So for a kid from Brooklyn, sitting in that kind of setting on a Sunday, you're tired as it is because you stay up late Saturday night. The idea of listening to that was rough. So I didn't take very well to the whole religious culture then. So and being from Brooklyn, there's a lot of influences, a lot of things to kind of draw you into other places. And then my dreams of being a baseball player with the Yankees was my main goal. I didn't really think about a lot of the other stuff that was going on, but those foundations. Even though I was in sleep at church the majority of the time, the foundations of the Bible and foundations of faith. I look back at it now and I'm like, even though that wasn't my cup of tea, there were always some big takeaways. And I mention that first because I lived a life full of rough situations, but I found takeaways in that. And that's kind of how I got to, if I had to shorten it, which I think I should for time's sake, that's how I got to the place that I am doing the things that I'm doing. I consider myself a jack of all trades and a wearer of many hats. I've been a former chef. I've been a former corporate leader. I've been a developer of men in ministry and in the community. I've done a lot of different things, but a lot of them were situations that I would consider just not so much stepping stones because I don't think I've risen above a lot of that. I kind of just learned from it. I got some takeaways and some gems to kind of apply to my life so that I wouldn't just be going through situations. I'm actually learning from it and making an impact where I end up next. So that's kind of how I got here, man. I mean, there's a lot of story to go with that, but that's what it was. It was just a series of ups and downs of trying to figure out who I want to be and not being a creature of my environment or a product of my environment and not being a creature of habit and following all the things around me, but kind of figuring out who I am and who I want to be. I love the question, man. It's really deep, and I love shows like this because you get a chance to kind of hear what your life is like outside of your own mouth, outside of your own mind. So I love this, man.
Definitely,
Great question, brother.
definitely, and it's cool because I like to go into to stories, and I like to break them apart a little bit because I wanna know how you got through the different adversities, how you got through the ups and the downs, and what you learned along the way that you apply now into what you're doing. And so you mentioned at first, sitting in that Episcopalian church. I can concur. They're boring. They're not fun. They're not fun for kids, especially to go and sit and just sleep through. I mean, it's a good little nap, a good little Sunday nap. I mean, that's not the point, but what you mentioned, you learned some of your lessons there, learned some of the foundational pieces uh, while you were there that you took. So as you're growing up in Brooklyn, you're going through everything. I guess what was family like for you? What was kind of the day to day like for you trying to navigate just life for you? Did you have a male influences, father figures?
Okay. Fantastic question. I love that one too. In regards to the first part of your question, I think some of my takeaways from just family life and growing up in New York, one of the things that, well, several of the things that are part of the vernacular of that area of the city, despite what you read, what you hear about New York and stuff, a lot of that stuff is false. If you haven't lived there, you don't know. You can read about things or have situations that happen, but you don't. If you haven't lived there, you don't know. But a lot of it is built on grit and toughness, the ideas of those things, the hustle and grind kind of mentality. I did take that away from my time there. I'm not saying it's all good. I'm just saying that's what I learned when I was living there, and even when I left there and moved into the South, I took those things with me. But I also learned from my immediate family faith and consistency and really showing loyalty to family. That's something that I saw, even though I guess you could say my household was not complete. I didn't have a male role model. They were something that tried to stand in that, but I wanted it from them more than they wanted to give it to me. Let me just put it like that. My father was as far away as you can be. He was in California. By the time that I probably came out of the womb, he was already there. So for me, my mother was a big role model for me. I mean, she took me out to do all the things that little boys need to do. Ride bikes, scuff my knee, work on my swing, work on my catching, shagging fly balls, because I wanted to be a Yankee. So I had to learn how to do that. And she helped me out. She had me at Rollins Glove anytime I wanted her to indulge me in that. She would help me do that. Even throwing the football around, let me go to the courts and shoot 3-pointers. I thought I wanted to be a Knick too, so I had a lot of aspirations. But she helped me out with that a lot. Honestly, she was my best friend for a long time because the other options were not great. So I leaned on her a good bit, but she was a hard worker, working 2 jobs and going to school the majority of my time with her in her home. So or in our home. So I think to me, I didn't have those models and I didn't have those influences. And people can say, you know what, hey, I turned out all right. People can say, you know what, I'm a mama's boy and I'm proud of it. People can say a lot of different things, but there is, and I'm saying this to people who probably ain't gonna agree with this, but that's what I do. That's how I talk. I just say what I really believe. There is not a man walking around that didn't have a male in a household and didn't suffer something because of that. There's always going to be a piece that's going to be to some degree missing. I don't. It's not a slight against the moms. You're doing all you can, but there's just some things, mom, that you just can't do. There's something that just your love for your son can't cover. At least not long term going into the rest of their life, because that void that was there, it showed up later. Mom's love was awesome. I mean, she had my back on every front. I lived my life to not offend her and not make her life hard because I saw how hard she worked for me. So for me, I was totally good with just, I guess, quote unquote, being a good boy. I was good with that because I didn't want to hurt her. I saw what she gave, like, man, she sacrificed it. I saw how my grandmother sacrificed for her. I'm like, so I thought sacrifice was the thing. So I tried to live my life in that kind of way. But not having that consistent male role model, the standard of how to be a man, how to conduct yourself, how to treat women, not learning that stuff, it always shows back up. It always shows up. And it did for me.
Yeah, it's I love that you brought that up. I was like, which when you were saying that, I'm like, which way is he gonna go here? But you went the way I was hoping you were gonna go. I think you're totally right. Right, there's a part of each and every one of us that maybe didn't have a strong male influence in the home, a dad necessarily, or a father figure, whether that could be a stepdad that was around for majority of your life, kind of thing, that you grew really close to and things like that. But there's something there, right? And moms they can do so much, right? But they can't do what men can in some aspects, right? They're not. It's not the same, right? As men, we want to hear from other men on certain things, right? One example being that I can kind of give to relate to this is when I've brought or I've had guests pitch me to come on the podcast. I think I maybe brought one or two on. They're like, oh, I'm a woman who is a men's expert.
Hmm.
It's like I'm thinking about that. Well, if I'm a man, which I am, and I hear a woman talking about men issues and they're a men's expert and they know how to fix men versus a man doing the same thing, who am I more likely to listen to? Who am I more likely to resonate with? Probably 99% of the time, I'm going to resonate with the dude versus the woman kind of thing. And it's no offense to them. They're working hard, they're doing their thing, but they just don't get it the same, right? And it leaves you with that like void, right? It leaves that void there that a lot of young men and I'd be curious to hear your experience here, but it leaves a lot of young men, looking to fill that void, and they fill that void with, drugs, alcohol, different addictions, promiscuity, be gang activity, maybe, with unhealthy coping mechanisms. I would say it's more common than not that they're going to find the unhealthy versus the healthy ways to cope with that. They're not really going to thrust themselves into athletics, into academics, which is what you would hope they would do, because that's where they're going to find more of those male influences, is through athletics. And that's not always the case. Yeah, it's something that leaves you wanting more, right? And then it
Correct. Yeah.
it does pop up eventually. It does pop up eventually, right? Like as you get older, as you as a man start to get older, and you start to think, okay, well, I'm looking around. I'm getting a little older. Like I finished school, got my job, I'm doing good. Maybe I should consider, settling down with a nice lady, and trying to find that next step with me. But then I think that causes a lot of, I don't want to say anxiety, but a lot of nerves, right? Thinking about that, because it's like, oh, well, if I do that, I don't know how to be a husband, because I never saw my dad. I never saw anyone be a husband before, so I don't know how to do
Yeah.
that. So I can't do it. I never saw anyone to be a dad. I don't know how to be a dad. I can't do that kind of thing. I don't know how to do this. So I don't have that example kind of thing. And it sparks back up, and then those wounds open up. And then as you're older, you probably, hopefully, have more ways that you're coping day to day with things that you can cope through that stress. But if not, it can definitely lead you down a dark path.
Absolutely.
What kind of impact did that have on you growing up without a dad, growing up fatherless, and trying to navigate your way into fatherhood?
Okay, definitely. This is I try to make the story not too long because it does get deep, and I'm happy to talk about it. I've done it on multiple shows. I
Yeah,
even wrote I even wrote a book about it, so it's not even a secret anymore. But one of the things I think was a big impact later on. I kind of going in reverse here, but later on was because I didn't, like you said, I didn't have examples of what a healthy marriage looked like. I didn't know what it meant to be a dad, what kind of roles a dad's supposed to play. So my struggle with moving into parenthood and husbandhood, if you will, they were a wild ride because I didn't have any context. I've been sharing this so much about this. I don't normally drop other people's books on other people's podcasts, but this one is just my go-to book for how to understand a man. So for all those women that are trying to be men experts, perhaps you can start with this book. It's called Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. That might be the greatest book I've ever read personally about what it means to be a husband, a dad, a son, a man. And it explains it so well what men go through, what their struggles are, what they need in life, their sense of adventure, it not being quelled by people who are more concerned about their safety. Letting kids skin their knees and not, try to coddle them and turn them into shells of themselves. The book goes into so much deep stuff. So Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. If you're interested in the topic, please check it out. But for me, one of the things that I figured out early on was that, not having that male influence, it kind of made me feel as though I was like almost unwanted. And that's weird because my mom was there so much and she did so much, and she heard it right now. She may be like, "What you mean?" But it just felt like there was a part of me that was just missing. And I happen to tell a story a lot. I stumbled across a picture of my dad while going through some of my mom's stuff. A picture of him standing in a nightclub singing. And I was a singer, but my mom does not sing. She'll tell you that. Nobody in my family that I know of on the maternal side actually can sing. So I'm like, okay, so where'd this come from? Because I'm singing now. I'm singing and playing around with the piano, but nobody around me knows how to do that. So when I saw the picture of the nightclub or him standing on the stage with the nightclub singing, I'm like, wait a minute. Perhaps that's where this talent comes from. So it made me more curious. And then I began to start chasing after him, start trying to find out where he was, and reaching out to in-laws, and I mean, not in-laws, but relatives on the paternal side, and trying to find him. And I did all that stuff. And I'll just say that the search, I did eventually find him, but the search didn't end well. I'll put it like that. He did pass, and I was able to at least bury him, but that was the extent of my involvement in his life. So the challenge for me was that, I felt like I was not ever validated. Like nobody ever really, kind of gave me the seal of approval and said, you know what? You're a man. You got this. Now you can go and do men things. Now you can go and do husband things. Now you can go do adult male and brotherly and fatherly things now. And I never felt like I got that. So I spent a lot of my time struggling internally, getting caught up in the wrong crowd, feeling like, you know what, I got to find brotherhood and family and community somewhere. So I found it in a lot of the wrong places. But I just kind of felt like I left, I was left kind of as a part of a man and not really a whole person. Men can say, you know what, I got this, I'm fine, I don't need him. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't, he was never here, so, who cares, But those holes, they run deep. And you can lie to yourself. People try to cover it up with things. I didn't cover it up with alcohol and drugs. I was a little bit different, but I covered it up in other areas. And honestly, those holes don't heal themselves. They say time heals all wounds, but somebody whoever wrote that was a liar. Time does not heal all wounds. People have been 40, 50, 60 years old, and they still suffer from things that they dealt with in their childhood. We see it all the time in the ministry that we operate in. So we know that that's not true. For me, it was a challenge to come through that and recognize, kind of gain some truth and some wisdom to kind of help me to be able to be the father that I need to be to my three daughters with no context, be a husband of almost, well, next month will be 29 years for us, to do that without any kind of context for what a marriage looks like, a healthy marriage at that. So there's nothing easy about that, but I feel like the community piece and the connection piece, they play a part in you growing and healing. But it was a real struggle, Jay. I mean, I gotta be honest about that. If you're a man out there and you're thinking about bouncing on your kids and your family, understand that it's not just you maybe hurting your spouse that's your intention. It's not just you, getting free from what you think is a rough situation. Those kids, they're taking the hit and they're
Yeah.
taking it in ways that you can't see. They might smile over, they might shrug their shoulders, they might get to see you on, with some kind of visitation set up, but they taking it, they feeling it like, why are you not willing to be in this with me?
Yeah.
So it was a tough struggle. Hopefully I answered the question. Like I said, it goes
Yeah.
deep, but hopefully I help answer the question a little bit.
No, you're great. You're doing great. It's I love that you mentioned that some people fill the void with drugs and alcohol. Some you filled it by running with the wrong people, doing the wrong things and whatnot. And it's interesting for to think about that because like with our kids, it's very similar, right? Because if they're not getting it at home, then they're gonna get it from somewhere else, right? Like if they're not getting it from mom and dad, they're gonna get it from somewhere else. Whether that's information, whether that's love, whether that's knowledge, whether that's affection, whether that's attention, whether that's a compass of right and wrong, what to do, what not to do, or whatnot, right? Like they're either gonna get it from the right people, which is at home, or they're gonna go and get it from the people they want to go get it from, or the people they can get it from, and that may not always look the best. That
Yeah.
may not always be the best, which should be a scary thought, right? And you think in here, when dads, when you leave the picture, when you want to leave the picture, just because something's hard, it's not going well, and I'll advocate on both sides of the aisle. 100% of the time, if it really is bad, if it really is truly bad, if there's really truly a situation that's irreparable, that can't be worked back from, that
Sure.
can't
Yeah.
be can't be repaired, then that's one thing, right? But there's very few examples of that are justifiable. Even if we were talking about justifiable biblically, the only thing the Bible mentions is infidelity is the pretty much the only reason to get divorced. But that's biblically speaking, right? But that's the foundational truth. So you think about that, like, and a lot of people just get divorced because they're unhappy or they're not satisfied or it's not what they thought it was going to be or it's too hard or it's too much work or it's those really lame excuses that can easily be worked through, but there's no wanting to work through them. There's no
Yeah.
desire, and so it's like, oh, let's just we're not feeling it, let's just get divorced.
Yeah.
I literally saw
Sounds
this.
easy, huh?
Yeah, right. I saw an influencer on TikTok who was married, and her whole reason was like, I just don't want to be married right now. Like, I hope there's a deeper reason than that. Like, I hope there's something deeper than that because you just threw away this long term relationship. and your marriage just because you didn't want to be married right now? Did you like?
Interesting.
Did you cheat? Did he cheat? Was there a reason, kind of thing? Because that tells me that you wanted to go and be a hoe,
Oh,
kind of thing. Or maybe he cheated, or
ouch.
maybe there was something else there, right? Or maybe there's a deeper reason. But it's like, what's your reason, kind of thing? Do you have an actual reason? And if I hear it's like, oh, I'm just not feeling it, I'm not happy. Okay, have you talked to them about it? Well, no, I was just gonna do it, kind of thing, because there's no point in talking. Okay, so you haven't tried. Well, what we tried it, but you haven't tried talking to them about what you're feeling, kind of thing. And so then you go back and you're thinking about it with kids and whatnot. And it's like, well, I'll still see them on this time and whatnot. And then you actually go through the process, like, oh shoot, I'm only seeing my kids on weekends,
Mm,
kind of thing, because the court system doesn't like dads. A lot of systems in our country don't like dads.
sure.
And so it's you gotta really think, are you willing to sacrifice that? Are you willing to leave it? Or are you willing to put in the work? And of course it takes the other spouse to also willing to do the same thing. Are you willing to put in the work? Are you guys willing to put in the work to change, to become better, to actually have a lasting relationship? Because it ain't easy. You've been married 29 years. I'm sure there's been moment after moment after moment after moment of wanting to walk away, to call it quits, to peace out, to get divorced. And I'm sure there's been a lot of shit you guys have had to work through. A lot. I'm on my second marriage, and so I know that there's a lot of shit that you got to
Wow.
work through
Wow.
on a regular basis to make it work. But it's a choice that you make every single day to stay and to work through the shit.
I've only had one situation where I even had a question about what I was doing, and that was early on. And anybody that's been married, you always hear about the first 5 years and how they're crucial to the development of the relationship. And it's not a lie, it's definitely the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Probably smack in the middle of that, probably in our third year, we were struggling with some stuff with other members of the family and just some rebellion in the house and some things like that. And we weren't really communicating as well. Bear in mind, you got this guy that came in here with no context, didn't know how to do stuff, learning stuff on the fly. So he's not an expert. So I'm coming in with, with my Brooklyn, New York stance on things, and I'm kind of laying the smack down and the hammer down wherever necessary. And in a lot of cases, that is helpful, but sometimes it's not. So you got to just kind of figure out how to do that. So we had some things to figure out, but I've never had any thoughts beyond that moment. People might say, "Oh, I don't believe that." I don't care what you believe. I'm just being honest with you. That was the only
No, I
time that's
believe
ever
it.
happened.
I
No,
believe it. And there's probably been times that we're hard too, though. At the same time, like beyond that, but you guys got through it. You
yeah,
worked
yeah.
through it.
Yep. We put up what we call it's our special United Front story. Because we felt like we were at war, and people might say, "Oh, you downplaying war." I'm not. I'm just trying to make the best comparison to describe how we were feeling at the moment. We felt like we were in it, like full out assault every day, practically all day, with rarely any breaks. It was continuous from our children, from people who were connected to our children, family members telling us how we should do this and how we're doing this wrong, all kind of things. And then that don't include the church and and their take on what we were doing and their input on what should be going on in our life. We were feeling so much. Plus, on top of that, the thoughts in our own head that weren't even great. So we had all the things barraging us constantly, and it was. And this is a long story made short as well. But the moment that we said, you know what? At the end of the day, these kids are going to get older and they're going to leave this house and go start their own families and live their own lives, go to college, whatever, get great careers. You and I are going to be the only ones left in this situation. Even if we have grandchildren, which we do now, and great grandchildren, which we also do now, we still are going to be the ones that are the main core and foundation of this relationship. Our girls are going to look at us as what a healthy marriage is going to look like and model their future marriages after this, hopefully. So we got to be on the same page. When we figured out that we had to put up a united front against all the other voices, I'm not going to say hell didn't break loose because it was already breaking loose. It broke looser, if that's possible. We were on the same page. And we never strayed from that. From that moment all the way up to now. We have struggles and issues, don't get me wrong, we still do. You know what I'm saying? But none of them are to the point, but like, you know what? I'm thinking about bouncing out of here. That never happened. We had some struggles like, you know what? I need a break from you. We've had those kind of talks like, okay, I need a break. Let me go take a ride. Go do me. You go do you. Take a break. We always come back home and we always settle it before we lay our head down on that pillow. That was always our thing. We don't go to bed. We don't go to bed mad at each other or leaving things unanswered or not dealt with. But that United Front story was the turning point for us. We said, you know what? It's you and me against the world, literally and figuratively. And when that happened, everything tried to come to, and I mean everything. I felt like the depths of hell tried to come against us. And it didn't work. It didn't stop anything. It didn't break anything. And I'm grateful for somebody who didn't have a dad for context, didn't have the whole idea of a husband's context. Going into my 29th year of marriage, I don't know anybody in my family that's been married that long that I'm aware of, except on my dad's side perhaps. But I don't know that throughout my family. It's a testimony to who God is and a testimony to what He's done in our lives. So I'm just excited about that. It defies logic. It makes no sense, but I'm living proof that it's possible.
Yeah, no, I love that, and it's interesting too. You mentioned like the gates of hell absolutely opened up when you guys were, truly became that united front, truly got on the same page going forward and whatnot. And the devil hates that. The devil hates families. The devil hates united couples. The devil hates couples that are choosing to stay together, that he can't divide, that he can't drag apart, that he can't infiltrate, and homes that he can't infiltrate, in situations that he's losing in, right? He hates that. He hates that. So of course it makes sense that, the gates of hell are going to open up after that, because he sees it and he's like, "Oh no, no, no. You can't be doing that. You can't be doing that, Mr. Yu. I'm going to try even harder to break you guys apart." And it truly is, a testimony at the end of it, 29 years of just, getting through it, working through
Yeah.
it day after day after day after day, and coming out on the other side. I think it's really cool. It's cool. It's really remarkable, and it's something to be really proud of, especially not having that example.
Yeah. How do you do that without an example?
You don't. Well, the thing is, at the same time, though, if we're talking, ministry at the same time, there you have an example. You have an example. You have stories to read. You have exactly how to be a husband laid out for us in the Bible. What is it? It's all in like First Peter, I think. Am I thinking right? Yeah, First Peter. I think is where most of it is, of like exactly how a husband should be. How Jesus treats the church is how we should treat our wives. And there's some examples also in Ephesians, I think there's some as well, and I wanna say there's also, and I'm not just saying books of the Bible, people, I promise. I think there's also some in Galatians as well, so it's throughout those few passages, but throughout those few books. But there's a lot of information in the Bible about how to be a husband, what to do, how to be a father as well, and there's a lot of really good examples.
Yeah.
Heck, even on this podcast, I've sat down with other people in ministry and different churches and whatnot, and broken down like some parables. Like I did a whole hour episode almost just breaking down the parable of the prodigal from like the father perspective and whatnot. And it's so cool and it's so interesting just how deep the Bible goes. Like, yes, we may not have an earthly example of everything. We
Yeah.
may not always have it, but guess what? We do have a lot of heavenly examples of exact how we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to treat our wives, how we're supposed to interact with our children, how we're supposed to raise our children. It's like even though the example may not be there physically, spiritually, and biblically, we have the perfect example at the same time.
I think so. Yeah. I like
I
that.
think that's really cool here. So I guess for you, when you got married to your wife, was there already children in the picture?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Were all three in the picture, or was it just like
Yeah.
one or two?
All three were already in the picture. They were
All
really, really
three.
young.
So you guys didn't add any more after? No.
So I stepped in when they were really, really young. We never used the stepfather label at all in our relationship. It was done by outside people, but we never used it. I never allowed it in the house because I didn't think I was a stand-in waiting for somebody else to show up like in the movies. No, I'm here. And now that I'm here, nobody else can be here. So I was in that role. I did all the things, and I mean everything, from daddy-daughter dances to helping my daughters do their hair. Yeah. Again, no context for doing little girls' hair. I was doing that. There's some funny stories to go with it, which they love to tell you. But I was there. I'm talking about all this stuff. I mean, there's some places I can't go as a father because only women can understand some things. But I was a father in every conceivable way you could think of, and I did that from the beginning and even up to now, even in their adulthood. But I never saw them as anything other than my daughters. So it was never ever an issue. I knew all their social security numbers. There was never any gap there for me. Like I said, outside influences, and sometimes they want to do their own thing, and they kind of kind of pull that card on you. That you're not my daddy card. It's been pulling me before. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I recognized my role and what I was there to do. And I wasn't going to sit there and allow the enemy to play that same game he always played. I said, you know what? I'm going to be consistent. Because just because somebody says something that's hurtful to you or rises up and kind of hits you below the belt, that doesn't mean you quit and you give up. Men do that kind of stuff all the time, unfortunately. But men do that kind of stuff all the time. I vowed that, you know what? Even though I didn't have an example of that in my life, I said, I'm going to not do that. I'm not going to be that man that tucks tail and runs when things start getting too hot. So I stuck and stayed. I think my wife appreciates. She lets me know that very, very often, even now. Our kids are out of the house doing their own thing. And she lets me know that she really appreciates that. And I'm like, you know what? I appreciate it too because I didn't see it. I didn't know how to do it. So for me to do it, it's purely a God thing. It's not me reading books. It's not me getting help from people who know how to be a husband and a dad. Honestly, none of those things happened for me. I didn't have a role model of that sort my entire life. All I had was the understanding that God was my father and he was not going to leave when things got hot. So whenever I was in the soup, so to speak, and I was in a challenging situation, I always remembered that, well, the majority of my life, not always, but I would remember that God is in there with me. And he didn't leave me behind. He didn't bounce on me and leave me to figure it out on my own. He was always there and always is there. That was a foundational understanding that kind of helped me keep doing this. Because it's not easy to be in a spot like this. Even as an adult, I thought it'd be easier as an adult, but it's not. It's not even easy now because there's certain things like, you know what, you made a lot of investments, you put a lot of seeds in the ground, and it's like, do people even appreciate what you've done? Being in a situation like this with blended families and fatherhood and stuff, it's like sometimes it's a thankless job. You don't always get the appreciation that you should get. Father's Day is like macaroni necklaces and bow ties and sun visors. It's like Mother's Day is a whole full boom. So it's like, it's a thankless job, but we do it because we love our families and we do it because we know it's the mandate of God for us to do it. So we do that and we do it with love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to go too far into it because I have some thoughts and opinions on Mother's Day and Father's Day, but especially with Father's Day, just how overshadowed it is with so
Yeah.
many worldly things, right? And same for Mother's Day. Like mothers and fathers, they get one day each, when other communities get more than 100 different calendar days for something that's man-made, something that's politicized, something that's ultra political, and then don't even talk to me about what the last administration did about doing a day of visibility on this Easter Sunday, and that big slap in the face to religious folks in the country and
Hmm.
whatnot, and just how overshadowed these things are, how overshadowed like fathers are, and how
Yeah.
discounted they are
It's
at
rough.
the end of the day. And it can be really hard to find your purpose as a dad. It can be really hard to navigate these waters, especially if you're co-parenting, or especially if you're your stepfather, or especially if you're trying to do this without a blueprint, right? Without any kind of
Yeah.
information,
Yeah.
without any experience, right? Like you learn like those ups and downs, and you learn just how thankless, how discounted your your position is, what you're doing is, how much people truly don't care, um, and how much people just think, oh well, you're just a stepfather. You're gonna end up leading these kids, or you probably better not lead these kids, kind of thing, and whatnot, and just how people feel like they can just say that stuff, but they don't know the whole story,
Hmm.
kind of thing. They
Yeah.
don't know. They question your commitment when they don't know you at all. They don't know your situation. They don't know what's going on there at all, right? But I think it really leads to a lot of men questioning their purpose, questioning, how am I supposed to go through this when every day it's something different. Every day it's a new beating. Every single day it's a new something telling me I'm not good enough, telling me I'm not enough, telling me I'm not a good father, or a good role model for these kids, or a good influence, or a good stepfather, shouldn't be here, kind of thing. Like those things come up every single day. And I guess, how what are some clues that like men tend to miss when it comes to like finding their purpose and living out their purpose?
I don't know how deep you want to go on your show, but one thing that I've been doing, I've been coaching people, entrepreneurs, business owners, people who are looking to find purpose in their everyday life. I've been coaching them off and on for almost 30 years. Getting ready to start ramping it up a lot bigger, on a bigger scale coming up soon. But one of the things that I feel like is important is understanding who you are. Forget the father and the husband and the son and the brother just for a minute. Just the role, who you are. Not who your mother and father says you are, not what the media or the world says you are, but who you actually are. And I can't take you anywhere else but the Bible. People don't want to do that. They want an answer other than that, and I'm sorry I can't give you one. Because if you are a Mitsubishi and you have some kind of problem, you don't call Honda to get the problem solved. You call Mitsubishi, you call the manufacturer, because that's where everything was made, and they understand that model better than anybody else does. So when I go to the Bible, I'm looking for help with this model because my manufacturer wrote this. So I'm looking at all the things that are in that, like you said earlier in First Peter, it's talking about who I'm supposed to be as a man, as a husband, as a leader, and taking these cues from that. I mean, because that's what I have to do. I honestly, even if you don't care for organized religion, you can definitely trust that the Bible's going to tell you about who you are as a man, who you need to be, the kind of things that will be moral standards for you, things going to be wisdom for how to deal with conflict in relationship, how to deal with fatherhood or parenting issues, how to deal with issues with your self-esteem, how to deal with what you do when you feel like you're not connecting or you have a challenge with even wanting to connect with people. The Bible deals with all of these areas, and I have to point you there. That's how I figured out a lot of things about me. Everywhere now at this point, I should get credit for it. But he said, when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. When the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. If I buy a bike for my daughter and I don't put it together the way they prescribe it should be put together, I did it my own way, put the wheel where I wanted to put it, put the handlebar where I wanted to put it, put the basket where I wanted to put it. When she gets on it, she's probably going to hurt herself. It's going to be a train wreck. It's probably not going to ride because I'm doing it my own way as opposed to how it's been set by manufacturer standards. If I didn't understand what the purpose of this bicycle was, abuse is guaranteed to happen. It's the same thing with us. If we don't know why we're here and what we're doing, we're bound to screw some stuff up and make a mess of our own world and maybe even the world around us. That's why I advocate that book, Wild at Heart by John Eldredge, because it talks about the purpose of man, and it goes deep, use some scripture references. It talks about the whole psychological aspect of what it means to be a man and what we need, what triggers we deal with, emotional triggers. The book is incredible, and it gets into all of that stuff. There's even a follow-up book after called Fathered by God. Another awesome book too. They're all in my top 3 books. But the point is that if we don't know who we are, we're bound to abuse this and mess this up. And a lot of the men that we see that are doing that is because they didn't know. It's not because they're just screw-ups and they're just bad people and we should just turn on them. It's not that. They didn't know. Nobody ever told them that they were valuable. Nobody ever told them they had purpose in this life. Nobody ever said, you know what? You weren't just an accident. You were here for a reason. You matter to the larger picture of all we're seeing in this world. You bring something to the table. You're not just a dot on a piece of paper. You have something to offer. It's kind of hard to see right now, but you have something of value to offer. In my culture, to help people find that. But honestly, there's several coaches that are doing some of the same things, and they help men find out where they fit, where they belong, who they are. Help rebuild their self-esteem, because sometimes when you have a father in the household, or he's there, he's kind of not there still, or he's just mean and brutal to you. Men need their self-esteem built. Men need their mindsets rebuilt because they go through that kind of stuff. They can't just walk around and try to cover that with a nice job and 6 figures. They need more than that. They need something emotionally, psychologically to take place. They need some help mentally, and there's a lot of things happening there. So, long answer to your short question, man. Hopefully I answered that. Sorry about that.
Absolutely. No, it's fantastic. And just for the sake of time here, there are some things that we didn't get to today, so I would love to have you on again in the future. We didn't get to talk about any of your near death experiences or really too much about business or the book. Well, a little bit about the book, I guess, by sharing your story and whatnot. But we didn't get into any of those things. But for the sake of time, let's jump into the dad zone, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So the dad zone, I've heard from the audience, from the people, that this is their favorite part of the podcast, and they love to hear from the guests. Some people skip straight to the dad zone to of the episode, and I'm like, cool, whatever. You're missing some great stuff, but do you? So first question here in the dad zone is it's a long time YDP debate. Does pineapple go on pizza?
Pineapple absolutely does not go on pizza.
Perfect. Great answer.
It should, but I'm not.
Should be biblical, but it's
It
not.
should be.
I've searched, trust me. Who are 3 people, dead or alive, that you would like to have over for a dinner?
3 people, dead or alive. Wow, that's a great question, man. I never been asked that before. I would probably say one person would be Dr. Martin Luther King. I'm not sure I'll let him pray over the food because I don't think I gotta eat. Let's see. I told you, dead or alive. Am I supposed to say or not say Jesus?
You can say Jesus. People say Jesus.
My first choice. Love you, Lord.
So Jesus, Dr. King, and who else? One more.
All right, this is a tough one. Let's see. I would probably say, I think for me, probably my old mentor, Dr. Miles Monroe. I would love to be able to sit with him and glean from him. I learned from years of his teachings, but man, if I can just sit down with him and kind of just hear some of his ideas and his thoughts, I think it'd help me understand people in my family because they all came from some of the same geographical areas. I would love to be able to sit with him. So yeah, those are my probably boring answers, but hey, those are my answers.
Yeah, not boring answer. Everyone has their own. Everyone has their own. It's interesting to see kind of how everyone thinks on that question. What's your guilty pleasure food? So what are you sneaking down? Yeah, what are you sneaking down to the kitchen to make sure no one else sees you eat?
Well, I'm not sure. I almost have a 2-part answer because I have a guilty pleasure, but one of them isn't considered food. But I love fruit snacks, and I know that there's a certain kind that I like. So it's not just any fruit snack, because some of them are really bad for you, but some of them are really good for you. But you shouldn't eat that many of them like I do. So I like fruit snacks. So that's on the side. But I think the guilty pleasure, if you talk about food, would be chips. And my mom, this is kind of her fault. So we had a little Friday night tradition. She would get a big brown paper bag, and we put chips, we put dipsy doodles in there, we put corn chips, we put cheese doodles in there, we put plain chips, barbecue chips, we put popcorn, shake it all up, and that's what we would have as a snack while you're watching a movie on a Friday night. That was a tradition. And for me, that tradition went on and on and on because now I'm doing it Monday, Tuesday.
So, Mr. Yu, I hate to break it to you, that's called a habit. That's not a tradition anymore. And then that's cool. Last question here in the dad zone. What is one piece? So you get one piece of advice here that you're offering to a new young dad. He's 18 to 22 years old, just starting out his fatherhood journey. What is one piece of advice that you would offer him?
One piece of advice for a new dad, 18 to 22 years old. I am going to encourage you, young dad, to find community. They may sound kind of boring or lame, but I'm gonna say find community because if you take your cues from your wife, no offense, you take your cues from their family or from TV or media, you're gonna be in a world of hurt. Honestly, the community that I'm talking about are men that are in your space, that have men that are either younger than you, they're younger than 18 and they probably should be dads, but you know what I mean. You're younger than 22 years old, people who are your same age, and the community of people who are actually a little older than you that have had families. It's called the power of thirds. That kind of community, you need to find that. People who are younger than you, people who are your age, and people who are older than you that have done what you're getting ready to do. They can tell you about the road that you're on and give you some of the pitfall before you actually get there. You can't beat that kind of wisdom. You can't beat that kind of community. And the men that don't have it, you kind of can tell when they don't have it. You can kind of look from the outside and say, yeah, they don't have community. You can tell. But the ones that do, you see it. They're very well adjusted. They still have troubles, but they go through them very well. They kind of move through them kind of seamlessly, and they navigate things very well. So community is key, man. Find that community wherever you can find it, whether it's with Jay, with myself, whoever it is. Find that community and start building it because you're going to need it for the road ahead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Well, Mr. Yu, thank you for this conversation. This has been fantastic. This has been a lot of fun. For the listeners that want to further connect with you, you guys can go right here. They call me Mista Yu. Find him over on Buzzsprout. And you can connect with access to all of his content. Coaching conversations can all be booked through here, I believe. And with that, I will just say one thing real quick. We'll wrap this up. Just go and do the things you can to show your love for the podcast. You guys know exactly what to do. You listen to podcasts. And until next time, we'll catch you right here on the Young Dad Podcast.